So, good day everyone. I am Clarence Bernardo, and my topic is all about the American rule in 1898 to 1938. So, these are the table of contents. So, education and the school system, public health and welfare, improvement in trade and industry, transportation and communication, democracy and civil liberties, political parties, language and literature, and the last is negative result of American rule. So, the education and the school system. So, the greatest American achievements in the Philippines was the establishment of the public school system, which was open to all, unlike the exclusive Spanish system. The schools were based on principles emphasizing honesty, civic and advancing the welfare of the people. The system also established a fundamental separation between church and the state in government and secular affairs. The first American teachers treated pupils kindly, providing free books and supplies. Due to a, short, due to a shortage of American personnel, a successful campaign was launched to train Filipinos as teachers. So, the largest group of American teachers, known as the Thomasites, named after the U.S. Army Transport Thomas, arrived to establish and staff the new public schools. Filipinos, both young and old, enrolled and learned English as the medium of instruction. Within a few years, many Filipinos were qualified to pass service civil service examination. By 1904, the American government began offering pensions and scholarship to the first group of Filipino professionals in fields like law, medicine, engineering, and education to study in the United States. Overall, the public school system successfully increased the number of Filipinos who knew how to read. So, the public health and welfare. So, following education, America's greatest achievement was in public health and welfare. So, before 1900s, the Philippines suffered from high rates of diseases like smallpox, dysentery, tuberculosis, and cholera. Public health and sanitation were poor due to the Spanish neglect, which worsened during the Philippine-American War. The Americans immediately set to work to combat the spread of deadly diseases and established a central board of public health and sanitation bureau. Their efforts were aimed at reducing the death rate and protecting the American military and civilian population. So the measures included building hospitals and dispensaries, creating health organizations, and taking private property for sanitation purposes, which initially drew resentment from the Filipino public. In 1898, the death rate per thousand persons was approximately 30 by 8. By 1907, it decreased to 21 by 29, and it continued to drop in succeeding years. By 1920, the average height of the Filipino had also increased by about 3 to 4 inches. This progress was attributed to the American introduction of hygiene, nutritious foods, and vitamins to the Filipino diet. By 1904, four schools of higher learning, including the University of Santo Tomas, the Silliman University, and the Central University, were established and opened. Next is the improved in trade and industry. The free trade relationship established between the Philippines and the United States led to significant artificial prosperity. Filipino exports to the US were generally duty free, and American products entering Philippines were also largely free of tax. This favorable trade balance meant that Philippines exports were consistently larger than imports, growing from 60.90 million pesos in 1909 to 297.9 million pesos by 1925 to 1930. So Philippine industry also prospered with advancement in coconut oil, cigars and cigarettes, rope factories, fishing and fish canning, alcohol distilleries, and sugar centrals were established nationwide. This led to increased development of Filipino laborers and growth of local capital investments. So mining, which was neglected by the Spanish, was was encouraged, and by 1929 gold mining alone produced almost 7 million pesos worth of gold, a figure that grew to nearly 32 million pesos by 1935, the year of the Commonwealth. So transportation and communication. Alongside health and sanitation, the Americans also improved transportation and communication. When the Spanish regime ended in 1898, the Philippines has less than 22,000 kilometers of road, which was increased to more than 20,000 kilometers by the Commonwealth period. The number of bridges and culverts also grew from less than 30,000 during the Spanish period to more than 8,000 by 1935. The railway line was extended from less than 200 kilometers in 1903 to more than 1,000 kilometers, with the government acquiring the Manila-Dagupan Railway and extending the line to the northern and southern provinces of Luzon, thereby significantly improved travel. So, democracy and civil liberties. The American regime rooted its system on the recognition of human rights, a foundation absent in the Spanish regime. The American regime recognized the equality of all men before the law and granted several key freedoms: freedom of religion, speech, the press, assembly, and domicile, domicile change. However, the Americans did not introduce democracy to the Filipinos, as the Filipinos were already familiar with its principles before the Spanish and American occupations. Events like the revolts against Spain and the Philippines-American War signified the Filipino people's desire to be free from foreign control. The Malolos Constitution had already provided a Bill of Rights, recognizing human dignity and freedom. So, political parties. The American the Americans introduced many American institutions, including the system of political parties and election for municipal, provincial, and national offices. The first national election, held in 1907 to elect delegates to the Philippine Assembly, led to the formation of political parties. Prior to American occupation, the Tejeros election of 1897 had two factions, but key lacked definite political platforms. The American period saw the emergence of real political parties with specific goals, such as the Federal Party, which worked for integration into the American Union, and the Nacionalista Party, which advocated for the immediate and absolute independence of the Philippines. This party system, based on the practices in the United States, helped increase the knowledge of political systems and government affairs among the wealthy and educated Filipinos. So, language and literature. One of the most lasting influences of the Filipinos, of the Americans rather, was the introduction of the English language and literature. English was taught in a public schools and became the medium of instruction. Consequently, many Filipinos began writing in English, including Justice V. P. Calao, Manuel M. Calao, Francisco M. Africa, Justo Juliano, and Bernardo P. Garcia, who wrote essays, poems, and stories. The widespread teaching of English exposed Filipino pupils to the works of American writers like the Longfellow, Bryant, Poe, Whitman, and Lanier. By 1935, many Filipino writers in English had established themselves, distinguishing themselves in poetry, short stories, and essays. The widespread Contact between Filipino and English speakers resulted in the adoption of English words and phrases into the major Philippine languages, particularly Tagalog. Hundreds of English words like football, basketball, foul, boxing or boxing, bistik or beefsteak, candy or candy, and many others are now part of the Tagalog vocabulary. This mixing led to the rise of Taglish or Ingalog, a significant combination of Tagalog and English. So, the negative results of American rule: economic dependency. So, the free trade relation led the Philippines to become exclusively dependent on the United States to maintain its prosperity. Since the US was the only major trading partner, American hands controlled the pricing and shipment of Philippine commodities, leaving Filipinos helpless and preventing the development of exports to other countries. This also led to no real industrialization by Filipino capital, with industries tending toward control by Americans, British, and other foreign nationals. Next is the cultural brainwashing. Another negative effect was the cultural brainwashing of Filipinos through educational system. Americans dictated educational policies emphasizing American culture and history over Philippine culture. Filipino pupils learned more about American heroes, Washington, Lincoln, and Santa Claus, than their own Rizal, Bonifacio, Del Pilar, Aguinaldo, etc. This kind of education influenced many Filipinos to prefer anything stateside, a phenomenon referred to as colonial mentality. So, next is the delicacies. Many Filipinos learned to appreciate American food like hot dogs, hamburgers, and sandwich, but began to forget their own local delicacies and sweets such as suman, puto, matamis, sabao, and lastly is the ginakaskas. Today, many of these traditional foods are becoming unknown to the current generation. So next is the materialism. Filipino the Filipino attitude of valuing material things over spiritual things is seen as an American mindset. This capitalist value judges people by their wealth, owning a car, refrigerator, television, house, or latest phone, rather than whether they are honest and hardworking. This materialistic view has unfortunately weakened the communal spirit and promoted a consumerist way of life. And that is all. Thank you.